Does it hurt? Dying.
Did we have to say goodbye?
It's okay. Just give her a hug, all right?
There's been times where our favorite characters from some of our most treasured shows have to part ways. Oftentimes, this isn't just emotional for the actors on the show, but emotional for the audience as well. Whether it be a thematic decision or the stars themselves pursuing opportunities, these character departures broke our hearts.
You've done beautifully.
Gary Oldman brilliantly portrayed the fan-favorite character Sirius Black in the Harry Potter films, and his character's passing turned out to be quite emotional. Black's final moments had the film knocked into the veil by his own cousin Bellatrix Lestrange, which transported him to the afterlife. Oldman apparently wasn't too thrilled about his character being killed off, and the death scene turned out to be quite the emotional one, with Radcliffe not knowing whether he'd get to work with Oldman again. Thankfully, Oldman was able to return as the character for a brief scene in the final film, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
And Dobby has come to save Harry Potter!
Perhaps one of the most emotional character departures in the Harry Potter franchise wasn't actually a human character, but instead Dobby the house elf at the end of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. After sacrificing his life for Harry by taking a knife in the chest thrown by Bellatrix Lestrange, the house elf passes in Harry's arms. Fans were understandably outraged by the character's departure, which led the series' creator, J.K. Rowling, to eventually apologize for killing off the character. It's that anniversary again. This year, I apologize for killing someone who didn't die during #Battle of Hogwarts, but who laid down his life to save the people who'd win it. I refer, of course, to Dobby the house elf.
Don't be afraid.
Grogu's, aka Baby Yoda's, departure in the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian had fans feeling a wide range of emotions as the iconic Luke Skywalker comes to pick up the child from Mando, leading to a tearful goodbye. While Grogu's departure had been expected since it had been the titular character's goal to give him to the Jedi, it didn't make their goodbye any less emotional.
Looking back on it, I just remember the good stuff.
Marvel fans knew that Robert Downey Jr. couldn't play Tony Stark forever, but that didn't stop the waterworks from coming during the final act of Avengers Endgame. Downey's contracts became more and more expensive as the MCU moved forward, and the acclaimed actor wanted to pursue other roles in his career. Downey didn't have any regrets about departing the highly successful franchise. We had to get off, we opted to, and knew it was part of the job to get off the bus while it rolled on to other destinations. There's something very sobering about it.
It was beautiful.
Chris Evans' Steve Rogers is one of the most cherished characters in the MCU, which led to his departure at the ending of Endgame to be heartbreaking, but also emotionally satisfying. Evans had initially turned down the role multiple times before giving in to Marvel's tactics, which he is still very thankful for. Evans felt that Rogers' ending in Endgame was satisfying, and said that it'd be a shame to sour his arc if he were to return.
¿Tú serías el padre de mi hijo?
Nairobi was easily one of the most popular characters on the Netflix series Money Heist, but the character's brutal death left many fans feeling conflicted. Creator of the series, Jesus Colmenar, defended the character's departure, claiming that Nairobi would have had a hard time fitting into the series' 5th season, particularly because the final season was all about direct confrontation, and the concept didn't fit with the character. Colmenar also felt that Nairobi's passing would help inspire the show's other lead characters and give them the motivation they needed in the final season.
Honestly, what can you say about a 19-year-old who dies?
After the untimely death of Corey Monteith, Ryan Murphy and the producers of the hit series Glee struggled with how they would retire his character of Finn Hudson. Instead of simply just having the character be recast, Murphy and his team decided to have the character of Finn pass on. While initially the character was planned to succumb to a drug overdose, the Glee team decided to take a more ambiguous route and not name the cause of death of Finn, and instead have the Season 5 episode The Quarterback, as a tribute to both the star and the character.
It's okay. You're okay.
Out of all the deaths in the Hunger Games, one of the most devastating is the death of Rue in the second act of the Hunger Games, after Marvel strikes her down with a spear. The death has always stuck out as a pivotal moment in the series, and is certainly one that carries a lot of emotion. Jack Quaid, the actor behind Marvel, felt bad about the fact that he was the one who killed the character, played by Amandla Stenberg. In all fairness, I met my demise very quickly afterwards. I was brainwashed by my luxurious District 1 upbringing, but yes, incredibly sorry.
He died a hero.
Luke Perry's passing was one that caught many across the industry by surprise, including the creators and the cast of Riverdale, where Perry starred as Archie's father, Fred Andrews. Instead of recasting the character, series creator Roberto Aguirre Sacasa decided to make an episode that would serve as a tribute to both the character and Perry, one where it would shed the camp and become more grounded. Even Perry's old Beverly Hills 90210 co-star Shannon Doherty had a guest spot on the episode.
I'm just paying my respects.
In order to pay tribute to her late friend.
This is gonna feel so good getting this thing off my chest.
Potentially the biggest example of a major star parting ways with their TV show was Steve Carell, when he left the hit series The Office. Carell's Michael Scott ended up leaving the Scranton office of Dunder Mifflin to be with his fiancée Holly as she moved back to Colorado to take care of her ailing parents. Initially, things were unclear on why Carell left the series, with many believing that Carell made the decision as his contract was about to expire. But the truth was that he planned on renewing his contract. But the producers of the show never called him back. The character's departure received a multi-episode arc and is highlighted as the series at some of its most emotional.
Hope I make you proud.
Before becoming the superstar Childish Gambino that he's known as today, one of the first roles Donald Glover ever played was Troy Barnes on the NBC series Community. Because of rising turmoil behind the scenes of the show, along with the firing of showrunner Dan Harmon, Glover decided to part ways with the series, but not before being asked to come back for a few episodes so his character could have a proper send-off. Troy's departure was written so that he had the opportunity to sail around the world, but at the cost of leaving his friends at Greendale Community College behind. What makes the scene the most emotional was Troy's final hug with Danny Pudi's Abed, who he shared a very close and unbreakable bond with.
Well, I'll see you around.
After playing the character of Fiona Gallagher for 9 seasons on the hit series Shameless, Emmy Rossum, who played Fiona Gallagher, opted to leave the series to pursue new roles in her career. Fiona's final arc in the series was a turbulent one. From recovering from alcoholism and getting herself together, before leaving her family behind and finally doing something for herself instead of just for her father. While there were initially plans for the character of Fiona to return for the series' 11th and final season, complications with the pandemic deterred that from happening.
Don't be what they made you.
Hugh Jackman had the honor of donning the Wolverine claws for 17 years, and it got to a certain point where it's hard to see any other actor taking on that role. Jackman and director James Mangold were initially going back and forth on whether or not to kill off the iconic character at the end of Logan, but ultimately came to the realization that it was only appropriate for the character to pass on. But the reason the choice was at our feet was because you needed this sense of closure. You needed some sense of an ending if you were going to end. If you were dealing with the legacy of Hugh's many performances and many films, and trying to set this apart in some definitive way.
The way you said it, it's like goodbye. Say something else.
Paul Walker's tragic passing during a break from filming Furious 7 clearly had an effect on the cast and crew behind the Fast and Furious franchise, knowing that it would never be the same again. Instead of killing the character of Brian O'Connor off, the filmmakers behind the 7th entry opted to use the film to retire the character. The film ends with a moving send-off of the character of Brian, leaving the world of racing cars and saving the world, to be with his family.
I caught the last flight out.
Many fans of that 70s show felt that the beloved sitcom lost its way when Topher Grace's Eric Foreman departed the show to study abroad in Africa. In reality, Grace had left the series to focus on building his career as a movie star, hoping that it would take his career to new heights as he starred in films like Spider-Man 3 as the villainous Venom. Grace did end up returning to the show for the finale, but his initial absence was certainly felt. Even with character departures becoming increasingly common in our favorite movie franchises and TV shows, it doesn't make it any less emotional, regardless of whether or not the departure was planned. What character departure made you the most emotional?